Good morning and welcome to another M3DM live stream. Today I'm going to be sculpting a Frogfolk fighter. Obviously this cute little lady right here is not a fighter, she is a florist, but it's pretty similar in, the frog aspect of what I'm creating today. This is a model I created earlier this year, so I wanted to share her with you because she's precious and I don't get to sculpt very many frogs. So let me talk about the references and what exactly we're doing today. All right, here we are. So the request specifically is, I would love to request a tree frogfolk called a Gribbly in leather armor with a pair of scimitars with a happy/cocky pose and expression. This would be great for my character, a purple and black spotted Gribbly, the self-named Pretty Kevin on account of how pretty he is. So that's what we're going to be sculpting. Obviously, I have a florist here as a default because I've already sculpted her. Sai is here, good morning. And Mark B, also good morning. I don't think I recognize your name. I have another Mark though. Either way, hello and welcome. Sai says afternoon for him. All right. Yeah, time zones are funny. So here we are. This is the reference that they provided. And my husband is here. Hello, love. And here are references I grabbed as well. I'm thinking about opening the mouth, but their bottom part of their jaw is so thin that I might not do that. And then here's the pose I'll be doing. From the pose archives, I highly recommend them. They have fantastic stuff. All right. Well, that's the whole summary. Let's get sculpting. Like always, I love talking about what I do, so if you guys have any questions, please let me know. I've had a recent influx of new mentorship students, which is fantastic. I love having students. So if you're a student especially, please ask questions. You literally pay for this. I am at your service to teach you. And that goes for people watching in the future as well. Feel free to timestamp at any point that you feel confused. Send me a message on Discord and I'll help you directly. All right, well, let's get started. I'm gonna go ahead and stamp her at the top because she's really cute. And let's remove all the pieces that are not quite relevant. Also gonna drop a hard save. Frogfolk fighter. I hope you guys have a lovely Friday going for you. Let me know if you guys have anything fun planned for the weekend. I think that bag is going to end up being helpful, so I might leave that there. Same with this belt. I could see that being helpful as well. But for now, let's just go completely down to our base mesh and our funny little frog body that I have here. Gosh, it's so silly. Oh man. All right, I'm also going to save this tool for myself in the future so I can more easily import this. I'm going to my master tools, Z bodies, animal humanoids, and I'm going to call this a Frogfolk. Mark said, going great, thank you. Discord name the same? Yes. I think so. I'm trying to remember. I also have a lot of Marks like in my personal life too. So Mark is just one of those names I have a hard time placing sometimes. When I was in Hanford, our neighbor was Mark, great man. And then when I moved all the way across the country, he actually moved across the country too. And so one of our little pit stops overnight was staying with Mark and his wife. So yeah. And then my best friend growing up, her dad's name was Mark. There's just been a lot of Marks. Alrighty. So I want this tree frogfolk to be a bit leaner. So we're actually gonna work on this weird shiny body first. And it's shiny because I actually went ahead before the stream and I applied the matte cap toy plastic right here. You can do that by using your paintbrush and making sure M is selected. Oh goodness, there we go. There's the other Mark. Mark Daniel. Good morning. I'm a recent follower. I was just talking about Marks. I have summoned the Marks. Alrighty. So again, the expression's perfect because I want him to have like this happy-go-lucky expression, but I want them to be leaner. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to be adjusting the mesh here by using the move brush primarily. And I also want him to be a bit taller. going to turn off perspective. We're going to stretch those feet to be a bit taller, move them down, going to a lower subtive, grabbing my mask lasso brush, and we're just going to stretch this on down. I'm so glad that another Mark joined the live stream because again, I really like to try to remember everyone's name and where I met you guys from and like whether you're Patreon or live stream or whatever, but it can be tricky. When I was in college, I worked as an RA, so that's a job where it really helps to remember everyone's name. If you're not familiar, RA is short for resident advisor, so it's pretty much like a babysitter for kids, 17 to 22-year-olds. So not kids, but you know what I mean. No one knows what they're doing when they're 18. I sure didn't, and I was just in charge of more of them. I actually became a resident advisor because it paid for your housing. Fun fact, I had a full ride scholarship, so my housing was already paid for, but I was so paranoid about losing my scholarship that I got a job that paid for it again. Yeah, I've always been a bit of an over-preparer. I did in fact lose my scholarship on my very, very last semester, my 8th semester. So into my 4th year, because I had a 3.33 GPA in mechanical engineering and I needed to keep a 3.5. But I didn't have to pay back any money or anything. I just didn't get to graduate with special honors, which is fine. I was just happy to get out and graduate. All right, he's a bit taller. This is gonna be a male frog, so I'm gonna give him more of like a straight frame here. Still gonna make the body even a little bit larger, and I'm probably gonna make the legs longer. But thank you guys for hanging out on a Friday afternoon or morning, wherever you're at. I always think it's the coolest to be part of so many people's day. Who was it? Someone mentioned they like to watch this stream on Fridays before they go to the tavern after work, which I'm like, tavern, I'm like, or pub. I'm like, you're definitely not from the United States because we don't say pub here. I thought that was pretty cool though. That's one thing that's really cool about having an online business primarily is that I have supporters from literally all over the world, but I can't help but default. I just assume everyone's in the United States. I guess fishbowl kind of mentality. But a lot of people that support me are from the UK and Australia specifically. A lot of Australians. All right, I'm happier with this base mesh here. I want the head to be even smaller, but I don't want to lose my subdivision levels. What I can do is I can run into Transpose Master really quick, and I can adjust these proportions further. But I can also start dressing him up, because I mean, that little frog butt is just cracking me up. I need to add a little more volume to his back here. Frogs have a very flat little head. There we go. And a reminder for everyone in the stream right now, this character's name specifically is Pretty Kevin, and the requester helpfully mentioned because of how pretty he is. They also mentioned that he is black and purple spotted. Purple and black spotted. So I might paint him like that to match, because I might as well. All right, I think we're set. I'm gonna make him even taller actually, because I'm looking at the reference they provided and it's a bit different than my other Frogfolk. My other Frogfolk have been pretty short and stout, like her, almost like chibi-esque proportions. There we are. All right, let's see how many assets from my library are gonna help us out today. These are all pieces that I've made over the years. I've been sculpting full-time since 2019. A lot of these pieces are from the last 6 months though, because I didn't always have an asset library. All right, one of the first key things that I'm gonna wanna add to him is a breastplate of sorts. I don't know if I have a leather breastplate in here that I'm gonna like. And if so, we'll just sculpt them from scratch. I do like the shape of this piece. I can work with that. Let's go ahead and work with that for right now. I'll add more belts and a leather texture as we go. Do you guys have anything fun planned for the weekend? I know I'm gonna be doing. I'm gonna be playing a ton of Dragon Age Veilguard. Also, winter is coming. It's still a bit of a ways out there, but it's still the wet season, so my husband and I are gonna be putting up a shelter for our horse. We didn't really need to worry about it in summer and fall because it's been so warm. He's a pretty sturdy horse, but I like that he has somewhere during winter so he doesn't have to get rained on. Again, at the end of the day, he's a horse. He's pretty darn sturdy, and he does have some shelter because there's a bunch of trees out there, but I like to do a little better for him. So we'll be running over to Lowe's within the next few weeks to get that started. But that probably won't be this weekend. This weekend's likely gonna be a bunch of Dragon Age Veilguard for me. I've also been crocheting a lot, so that's been kind of like a fun new endeavor. All right, that's a nice little piece there. Hey, Pet is here. Hello, welcome. I saw you join, oh, this funny little weird body. I saw you join mentorship program. I'm so excited to teach you. I sent you a DM on Discord to get started, but obviously we're here, so I'm right here. If you have any questions, let me know. All right, let's give him some pants. Today we're sculpting a Frogfolk fighter. I'm basing it off of a mesh I've already created before, and this is this adorable Frogfolk florist. I've already changed the proportions quite a bit here. This one is going to be much taller. Still cute, but not florist level of cute. I'm gonna make some leather pants right now. I'm doing that by masking and Z-meshing at half. Trying to get rid of these weird seams. There we go. Those creases make it look a little more diaper-esque, and that's not what we're going for. I will always love that a big part of my job is pretty much being like a fashion designer. Like, what did you do at your job today? I put pants on a frog. They're good pants. These are almost too low poly for me to work with. I'm actually gonna subdivide once. There we go. It's pretty rare that I say that. Usually, always lower poly the better. Pet says, yep, I've been thinking about finding a teacher for a long time, and look, I'm convinced by your streamings. That's awesome. I'm really excited because my primary source of income is selling 3D printable models, but I'm also very passionate about teaching. It's definitely not like a get-rich-quick scheme. And it's so nice to have more students coming in because that allows me to spend more time on it. Because at the end of the day, I get to do what I'm passionate about, but I also need to follow where the money is, you know what I mean? So as the mentorship program grows, I can continue to put more time and provide more resources for you guys. So I'm super excited. Since I started streaming, I've actually had 3 new students, which is a huge influx. I think total I have like 20 something students. So an addition of 3 is more than a 10% increase. Very exciting. Also allows me to talk a bit more about like teaching and art, and more from like almost a philosophical standpoint too, because so much about learning a new skill is going into it with healthy and reasonable expectations. And I find that you cannot set goals that are too small, actually. And in the beginning, it might even feel condescending or patronizing, but it's not. It's really just what works. Sometimes people ask me, like, what's the secret sauce? You know, like, what made it so you could learn ZBrush in just a few years and make it into a full-time job? And I'll tell you guys. Let me pause, make sure there's no ads coming in. I found where I can pause ads, so they go away. The secret sauce for becoming a fantastic artist or fantastic anything is making a tiny goal that you do every single day. And for me, that was just opening ZBrush. That's it. And it was actually very, very hard to make sure that I sat down, got everything open, my computer, everything is set up, my desk is clear, and opening ZBrush. 9 times out of 10, I would play around with some brushes. I learned how to sculpt a little bit more. I always did more than my initial goal, or pretty much always. But there are definitely days where I opened ZBrush and I just closed it right away. But it was that simple little routine of opening a software every single day that really, really paved the path to what I do now. And that's what I really harp to my students, and you'll start hearing that a lot from me, Pat. Obviously, you can take days off. I understand weekends and stuff, but I recommend in the beginning doing it every single day if it's a small and reasonable enough goal. Pat says, happy to be one of them. Yeah, it's fantastic. If anyone else has questions about mentorship, feel free to ask. Even if you're not shopping for a teacher, if you're like, oh, teaching how to 3D model, what does that even mean? What are you even doing? Let me know, because I'm a talker and I'm happy to talk about it. All right, got some color on here. Looking a little more fighter-esque right now. I'll be making a lot of leather wrappings for his arms. Oh, another thing I've been doing for my students is I'm actually going to start sharing my asset library with my students. It's kind of a risk because this is such like the bread and butter of what I do, but I'm not exactly concerned about an M3DM imposter running around out there. You know what I mean? So even though a lot of these meshes aren't perfect, they're definitely better than having nothing. I think it'll be very encouraging for students to be able to quickly kit bash something together and be like, aha, they made something. That's not available yet, but I'm working on it. I want to make sure that when I release the asset library, I actually release it in conjunction with a video on how to actually use these assets and what to do, what not to do, that kind of stuff. Alrighty. Oh, I feel out of breath. I'm so like energetic and chatty this morning. I think I mentioned the last few strains, but I think kind of a crabby week, honestly. And not crappy, crabby, like a crab, like grouchy. I mean, I definitely don't show it. I don't come on stream and just like come in with a rain cloud over my head by any means, but I don't know. Some weeks you just kind of feel like that, you know? But I will say, I definitely feel like I kind of turned it around. Every day has gotten progressively better, and that's always really nice. All right, so right now I'm looking at all these different little leather wrappings and stuff. I definitely want to add a little, not too much, but a couple armor pieces. Again, he's a fighter, so it's gonna be kind of like a fast pace, nothing too bulky. This is even pushing it. I might take the second layer off of it. Because as you can see right here, I have 2 different pieces of metal. They're kind of stacked on top of each other. I'll probably just cut it to where I just have one to make this a little leaner. As of right now, we're kind of just in this kit bashing stage. So I'm kind of just like throwing elements on, really thinking about the end product the entire time. Pat says, in fact, your way of working with an asset library has been super inspiring for me. Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah, I've noticed a lot of people, and not just people, but creatives especially, and if you're going to be a mentorship student, you are one of my creatives. seeing someone that does it professionally for a living like me use an asset library, I think makes people feel comfortable, almost like giving them permission. Because I know I've had some of my students talk about making their own asset libraries, and I talk about it as if they feel like it's cheating or something. I think it's so funny because I'm like, it's your work. You can do whatever you want with it. I've even had quite a few students that are very concerned about using references even. Please use references. Oh my gosh, that's like I insist. Let me actually show you guys my references right now really quick so you know what's going on here. And it's not about copying them. Like, this is what my requester provided, and these are the references I found. I don't know what a tree frog looks like. I need references. There's no shame in that. I'm not sure where like that purist attitude comes in with art, but there's something a little almost pretentious, about art and creating. And I hope to demystify that as much as possible. Again, don't forget, I'm an engineer at heart. That's what my schooling and background is in. I've always been, I guess, analytically minded. I don't know. So I bring that approach into my art as well. And it doesn't make it any less full of personality and love. Pat says, I used to do something similar with scenery, but for some reason it hadn't crossed my mind that this logic's applicable to characters. Very applicable. Taylor is here. Hello and welcome. Always good to see you. What does mentorship look like? Is it a program with pre-recorded tutorials or is it more one-on-one? It's both. I really advertise it as it's me. You're gonna get me. So they'd be either a private email chain or on Discord. Usually Discord is people prefer. If needed, I will do like weekly calls, usually on the weekend, where I'll actually demo something for them and they can ask me in real time, kind of like a private live stream. But I also have videos I've recorded that walk them through it. I don't advertise the videos and the resources I made very much because it's not the point. The point is that you're gonna have me. And I really, really emphasize that because just following a tutorial isn't really what I want my students to do. The big thing about my mentorship students that's so important to me is I want you to learn how to ask questions. Because if you're just mindlessly following a tutorial, you'll end up with a model, right? But if you're gonna send a message to a real person, me, I find that people are more careful and more thoughtful. And it also leads to them progressing much more quickly. Because you can't learn if you don't have a clear idea of what you're trying to learn. And I even have a lot of students that ask, they'll even tell me I don't know what to ask, but I know I need help. And so I'm part of that process too, of finding what that next step is. Non-sleeper is here. Oh my goodness, hello. Non-sleeper, I'm not sure if you are anymore, but was a student for a long time. You actually get lifetime teaching from me because you're lovely. I haven't seen you in so long. It's so good to see you pop up. They said, she's such an awesome teacher and works at your pace. Thank you for the endorsement. Oh, it makes my whole day that you're here. I'm so glad. So glad. Oh my goodness, you guys are making me out of breath because I'm talking so much. Maybe I should just breathe. Again, I'm very chatty. I have lots to say. That being said, I don't talk that much in my day-to-day life. So I guess I'm not very good at talking and breathing. That's so silly. I'm gonna just focus on this for a couple minutes. Goodness. I really like this belted sash here, but I don't think it suits the character. I do like it a lot though. I don't think I have too many more pieces I want to add for my asset library, and I'm definitely not giving him shoes because he has adorable little frog feet and I want that to stay visible. It's going to be a lot of belts and a lot of refining this breastplate. All right, we're done with the asset library, I believe. We're definitely not going to be giving him hair. As funny as that would be. All right, now time for the real sculpting, so to speak. I've grabbed my pieces I think are helpful, and now it's all me. All right, Let me scroll down for a second. There we go. One more thing I'd like to bring in here. So I have my initial ZPR that has a few of my master tools in it, but I also have ones I don't get into as often, like my weapons items and then my shoulder and sleeve pieces. I think I have a small, yes, here we go. I have these leaves right here that I've fashioned into an armor piece, and because he's a tree frog, I can't think of a better piece of armor for our lovely little fighter here. There we go. I knew I had that in mind, so I wanted to go grab it. Lovely. All right, back to it. Pat says, the frog from the left is so adorable. Isn't she just precious? That's why I wanted to include her. That's my Frogfolk florist and where I based this one off of. Mark says, are you available to hire to create a proprietary design for me if I decide learning this from you is over my head? Oh, absolutely. I used to have commissions exclusively closed because I got really burnt out on them. But recently, since I've been live streaming and putting myself out there a bit more, I found that I've been finding much better clients, and I would absolutely be interested in that. Let's see. You can message me. One moment, y'all. I'm designing a new website right now, so I'm trying to make sure that my current website will actually have the resources that you guys need to contact me. Squarespace recently did a refresh and it broke my whole website. That's why I'm leaving Squarespace. Alrighty. This probably isn't... I'm gonna throw my email into the chat really quick. There you go. You can email me there, and also if you guys have questions about anything that you're too shy to ask me here about mentorship, for example, feel free to email me there. I'm totally fine with answering. All right, we're back to it. And I've actually had quite a few students do exactly what you're talking about, where they will initially have a project in mind, and then they'll start to learn, and they find out they actually like sculpting different things, and then they'll hire me to do their initial project. Alrighty. I think I'm going to paint these leaves with like a fall color palette because it is fall. I'm going to have mask by polygroup set to 100, and what that will do is it will automatically select individual polygroups within this mesh. A polygroup is essentially just anything that is separate, so it's not welded together. That's why I can select this bottom blue portion, this purple, or this pink. Alrighty, I don't want material turned on. I want RGB. M is just, it'll change what your matte cap is, but it won't actually change the color. You need to have RGB for that. If you want to do both, just select M RGB. And then my favorite is adding little gradients to everything. They look a little bit like feathers now with this color. That's fine. I like this little section right here. I'm gonna make it larger and pin it a little closer to the rest of the leaves. I'm going in with my move brush to adjust the shape so that way there's better layering. There we are. Lovely. I mentioned earlier that I wanted to soften this piece here, not be as bulky, because again, he's a fighter. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that and remove this top belted piece. There we go. Gonna make sure that this fits his funny little frog leg. There we are. And then making sure that I'm squaring off these hard edges here, because that's what will kind of break the illusion of what material this is. There we are. Let's go ahead and make that a more silver color. I'm gonna do the same thing for these rings right here, just a nice little accent. And then I think I might actually put these little bracers on his ankles, and instead I have a more substantial metal bracer for his arms. I like these a lot because that little flare on the end actually reminds me quite a bit of these shoulder pads here. Non-Sleeper says, 12 watching, only 3 likes. Come on. You're so sweet. I appreciate it. It does help. I'm getting better with it, but oh my goodness, part of me, again, like the whole like, ooh, like and subscribe. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just, it feels so, I don't know. I haven't really fit an opinion on it. I think it's because my live stream, I feel like I'm hanging out with you guys, and it does feel very friendly and relaxed. Like I wouldn't invite friends over and tell them to like join my newsletter, you know what I mean? I think that's why it feels weird for me to ask you guys to like and subscribe. But you should subscribe at the very least so we can hang out again. Or just remember my schedule. I stream Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Speaking of, this is my first week successfully streaming Monday through Friday every single day. I'm really excited and proud about that. I'm a very hard worker, but life happens and it's hard to be in the same spot every day. This is gonna sound so silly because most of you guys I know have 9 to 5s and you're like, yeah, I go to work. Look, I work for myself. My schedule moves around a lot. So this is a big deal for me to actually do something consistently every single day at the same time. Oh, Rocco is here, or Rocco. I'm gonna call you Rocco. Hi, welcome, you're new. Very cool to have someone new here. Have you tried Brush for iPad yet? I have not tried ZBrush for the iPad yet, and that's partly because I have a perpetual license and I am cheap. I don't want to pay for it again. I probably will though, largely on account for, I've had a new influx of new students from my mentorship program, and I know a lot of them are going to be using ZBrush for iPad, and I want to be the best teacher I can be, and the best way to do that is to use the same software on the same interface as well. Because I know ZBrush for iPad doesn't have the Z modeler brush, so I want to make sure I'm thinking of alternative ways for them to achieve the same type of meshes that I am. Oh, I really like this bracer here. Lovely. All right, there we are. So again, during my live streams, I'm using a lot of my asset library, and for all my students that are watching right now, I'm not gonna expect you to know how to make these pieces because you don't have a magical asset library to pull from. I have tutorials on how to make all these pieces, and usually during my streams, I have to do a lot more sculpting from scratch. I've sculpted a lot of fighters and like rangers and druid types over the years, so I actually have a lot of assets that are applicable for this. That being said, if you guys have any questions, please ask. I'm happy to do little demos literally anytime. I'm gonna add a nice little gradient to this. Love the color palette here. Oh, Monkey's here. Hello and welcome. I say it every time, so for my regulars, you're probably getting tired of this, but I'm never gonna stop. Monkey is fantastic, but not just that. Monkey is also a creator in the tabletop space. So if you wanna find yourself a real nice treat, Google meditating monkey. you're gonna find a lot of great stuff. He's got maps, he's got counters, items. It's so worth it. Pat says, have you tried Blender for sculpting? It's even cheaper. Yeah, it's free. I have like a confession to share with you guys. I am 100% a Blender snob. I just don't like it. And I truly don't have a good reason for it. And I know that. When I have good opinions, I will share them with you. When I have unfounded opinions, I will own that. I just don't like it. I have opened it up many times. I did the infamous donut tutorial. I've learned how to rig models. I've done a decent amount. I just hate it. And it's totally silly. But there, that's my Blender opinion. I still think it's great, and I recommend Blender to lots of people. Just not for me, because I don't like it. You know, it's about time for me to download Blender again, though. I download it about every year or so. For some arbitrary reason or another, I'm like, oh, I want to try this out in a different software. And I will say, each time I try it, I do like it slightly more, but I still don't like it. I think it's because I just have such a solid workflow in ZBrush, so it's hard for me to not so much deviate my workflow. I just have such a comfortable process, and it feels so inefficient to do anything else, including learning something new, which is a terrible attitude. You should always be open to learning something new. I know what I am. I'm owning it. Pat says, for polygonal modeling, I use a lot, but I admit that I'm not used to sculpting functions. Very fair. And though I do a lot of sculpting, the reality is I do a lot of like polygonal modeling too. Like I work so low poly, it's very similar to the same kind of thing. So I shouldn't have a problem with Blender. I don't know, it's just so gray. You know, I'm sure you can change the color of the UI just like ZBrush. And again, I have no problem with not liking things. I'm just also going to own when I don't have a very developed opinion. His feet are so thin. Let's go ahead and stretch those out a bit. There we go. If you're wondering why the toes are separate pieces, it's not so I can do really cute poses that are very complicated. It's simply because this actually was a human foot, and I smushed it all together and then put frog toes on top of it. And it looks great. Pat says, besides the guy who used to collaborate with the Blender Foundation making the coolest sculpting tools like clothing brushes left and started his own company, have you seen Cozy Blanket? I have not seen Cozy Blanket, but I am very charmed by the name. I'm actually going to look that up now. We're doing a little break, guys. We're going to learn about Cozy Blanket together because that's adorable. It's just showing me actual cozy blankets. Software. Here we are. Oh, they have an app on Apple. How funny that the examples here are frogs I'm working on now. Ah. Oh, it's like a root topology tool. Intriguing. Yeah, there's ZBrush. Well, I absolutely love the name. Interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Monkey says, I've used both and I highly prefer ZBrush over Blender. Thank you. I feel more validated. Non-Sleeper says, I enjoy my perpetual license. Best sculpting tool. Get good tools, have less headaches. Blender can be helpful for scaling objects and posing. Yes, that's very true. And yeah, I love my perpetual license as well. All right, he's looking quite nice. I'm gonna put 2 scimitars on his back, and then after that, I think we're about 45 minutes in, so I'm gonna take a brief break. My breaks are super quick, just letting y'all know. Like, I will legit be back in like 2 minutes. It doesn't take much for me to reset my brain, get some water stretch. Alrighty. That's gonna be perfect. And I'm going to pin these onto his back. He's not going to be wielding them. And the reason for that is because the pose would look really aggressive with dual wielding scimitars, and he's just not an aggressive fellow. I'll show you guys my pose reference again in just a moment. All right, we got one weapon here. I'm duplicating by holding Command, Shift, and D on my keyboard, pressing them all in that order. I don't think it matters if it's in that order, if that's just the order I do. And then clicking mirror. And there we go. Obviously I don't want them to intersect, so I'm gonna just grab my 3D gizmo with W on my keyboard and just nudge this forward. There we go. He's looking pretty tough, isn't he? All right, and then let me show you guys that reference he is going to be in. This is the pose. I got this from Pose Archives. There you go. This is the pose. So I don't want him holding big scimitars. Again, it's still a cute, happy-go-lucky pose, but it would just look a little too menacing with that. Alrighty, we're gonna go ahead and put this as the new stamp. I'm getting rid of the frog florist. As cute as she is, it's just not really part of this. He's moved on. All right, so now I have our little stamp there as a reference as we continue to make progress. And I'm gonna take a short break. I'll be back in about 2-3 minutes. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. I see most of you guys have liked the video. Thank you, it really does help. All right, I'll be back. Hello, I'm back. Alrighty, And to start us off, I see that Don Sleeper has reiterated some of my favorite advice to give. I actually gave this in the stream right before you popped in, but I'm gonna read it again because it's so important. Finding the best thing to do when learning ZBrush is to open it every day at least once. Because every time you do that, you're gonna mess around with something. Having that as your goal sounds so small, almost like patronizingly small, but it's not, and it's extremely helpful. Just getting into that routine of every single day. It's normal to want to take weekends off, and I'm really not trying to promote overworking yourself, but there's something about a daily habit that just works so well. Oh hey, someone new subscribed. Thank you, I appreciate it. I rarely actually see the alert pop up on screen because I'm looking, I'm sculpting. So whenever I do see it, it makes me smile. Alrighty, well, let's keep working, shall we? All right, I'm not quite sure how I want to detail this leather doublet here, so I'm actually going to do his pants first because that feels more accessible to me right now mentally. To do that, I'm going to close holes. I'm actually going to go ahead and crease first. What that will do is when I subdivide, it won't round the edges. All right, now I'm going to go to close holes. That makes it a completely solid mesh. I'm going to add a small little trim here on the edge. I like doing this, I call them paint catchers. For anyone that's hanging out or new, not familiar with what I'm doing, I am a full-time tabletop mini creator, specifically 3D printable minis. So I'm always designing this with the intention of having them printed and painted. Alrighty, so that little crease there, again, so I call it like a paint catcher. Alright, it looks good. Add some subdivision levels here, and now we're gonna add fabric folds, one of my favorite things to do. I create fabric folds pretty much the same every time. If it's something like blowing in the wind, I like to simulate it because it's hard for me to capture that level of randomness myself. But if it is just good old fabric folds, I do them by hand, and I use a standard brush and lazy radius, usually around 30 to 40. Make sure my Z intensity is somewhat high, around 30 or 40. And then I just go in where creases will be. You'll see me do quite a few strokes initially to make sure the brush is behaving the way that I want it to. And then I kind of just go in for it. I'll alternate between adding material and taking away material. You can take away material by holding Alt. I actually think these folds are a little too chunky for what I'm wanting, so I'm going to decrease my draw size and increase the intensity. We'll also start on his knees. All right, I'm at 300,000 points, which is pretty high, but the folds are still looking a little pixelated, so I'm going to subdivide one more time, which puts us at a ridiculous 1.5 million. It's really not necessary, but it's where we're at. I like to be as low poly for as long as possible. And then also, I'll help define things with Dam Standard as well, adding creases where they need to be. So a little funny frog butt. There will be fabric folds here. If you find that it's a little streaky looking, like for example here, if I go really quickly, you'll kind of see like this, it's actually really hard to see, but it's not perfectly smooth. There's like a bunch of little circles on it. That has to do with the brush type. It is dots. So you can either change your brush type, I think there's another one like freehand, or you can adjust it in your stroke palette by going to lazy mouse and decreasing lazy step. That will also give you a smoother result. It also makes your brush a little stronger because you're putting more material down per step. Just keep that in mind. There you go, you can kind of see that roughness that happened right there, and that has to do with step. I also find that just moving your pen slower also gives you smoother fabric folds. We're also going to quickly outline some more structure to these pants. This is pretty simple because he has a belt and most of it's going to be covered anyway. It's just so there's something there. I'm gonna run a seam down the edges here. I like to kind of try out a line that I like, and if I really like it, I'll click number 1 on my keyboard and it repeats that stroke. And again, these little pant details are not winning any awards by any means, but just having a little something there makes a big difference. All right, let's continue adding these fabric folds. I really like using fabric folds to show direction and twist on fabric. So when I have more complicated poses, I won't add these until I've posed the model. I already know what his pose is going to be, and I have no problem adding these in right now. I feel like there's supposed to be a tail here, but I know frogs don't have tails. I mean, I guess technically at some point they do when they're tadpoles. All right, we have lovely paint catchers all over the place. We're going to move the fabric away from the body wherever there's any clipping that's happened. Again, it's kind of like my rule of thumb. You always have the clothing adjust to the body. Don't tuck the body in and deform it underneath. You just, over time, you'll end up with an increasingly lumpy mesh. Now for this seam right here, instead of pulling the pants away, I'm gonna run down with the inflate brush, and it'll actually give us an even better, more convincing looking seam. That said, I hate to say it, but today I have to leave early because I have a very important international business meeting. No worry, I'll be talking to you soon because now you're on my mentorship students, so have a good one. Alrighty, looking good. I wonder why they put that in quotes. A very important international business meeting. It sounds important. I bet they'll be back on Monday. I'll probably ask them about it then. So, I definitely didn't expect to have such a regular audience. Like for all my newcomers here, you won't know what I'm talking about, but I see the same people on most streams, and I've only been doing this for a couple weeks now, and it's very, very cool, like the sense of community and the familiarity. I really only expected to have like 1 or 2 viewers at a time, guys, so the fact that I have a couple, like a dozen at a time, is really, really exciting. I was definitely nervous to live stream initially because there's something incredibly awkward when you feel like you're just talking to yourself, you know? But I'm very lucky that hasn't been the case at all. And again, I'm not even expecting like a high view count. Just having 2 people, that's a party. But it's been much more than that, and I definitely feel very grateful. I've been having such a nice time. This character is just really coming along with no issues. I don't mind when they fight me either, depending. Like earlier this week, I sculpted a couple completely from scratch. I actually sculpted a peacock mantis shrimp completely from scratch. Usually Patreon requests that are a little less on the fantasy side, I'll say no to and just ask them to put in a new request. However, a peacock mantis shrimp looks like an alien. It's pretty high fantasy. And my dad's a scuba diver, and I knew he'd think it's so cool, and he loved it, so I'm happy I did it. If you do want to see a more complicated stream completely from scratch, again, I have that posted on YouTube. Sai says, just got back from my own meeting. Have we all been taking breaks? I hope so. I took one water break. I've been good. Non-sleeper says, I plan to be back, but not on November, 10th or 11th, because Remembrance Day. But this is so useful and motivating. How to make an asset library. You do. It's so helpful. I can actually make a video about that too, because there's been some things I've been thinking to upgrade my asset library. Something that you can do to make your asset library even more usable is by utilizing visibility sets. So visibility sets are right here at the very top. I think, ooh, we can't see it because of my head. My entire head is there. At the very top of your subtool menu though. Let me scroll this down. Haha, now you guys can see it. All right, right here, these little V's right here, so there's 8 visibility sets. All it does is automatically toggle what is visible. So what you can do is have all your subtools for an asset library, but let's say for V1, it's all your metal pieces visible. For V2, all your organics or leathers and that kind of stuff. So you can quickly go through and quickly filter through your own asset library as well. I haven't done that with my asset libraries quite yet because there's not that many pieces in them and I'm very familiar with what I'm looking at. But as it continues to grow, I can definitely see doing that in the future. This leather doublet is so nice. Okay, so I want to add some texture to this to make sure it actually looks like leather. And to do that, I'm going to hit Command Shift, so I'm just selecting the non-trim pieces. I'm gonna go to Damp Standard, and I have a couple different textures I can use here. I'm a huge fan of Alpha 60. I have used this Alpha on so many models since the very, very beginning. I can kind of just go through and like lightly texture this like that. Or another one that I really enjoy is these ones, 56 and 57. I probably shouldn't be saying the numbers because depending on how many custom alphas that you've imported, it's not going to be the same number. But there we go. I think that texture looks more like leather. That being said, I want to be the inverse, and I also want to have a softer blend. So I'm going to decrease the Z intensity and increase the focal shift. There we go. And let's kind of patchwork this together. Something else I could have done is I could have gone in and sculpted that by hand with Damp Standard. I also could have looked at my noise library and applied it that way. For centerpieces, I like to turn off symmetry. There we go. And now I have a nice texture on this that's pretty exaggerated, and that's going to print well as well. Print well as well. I think some sort of detailed embroidery down the center would look very nice. I have some detail brushes for that. I did not make these myself. Whenever I'm using a tool that I purchase, I will always let you guys know. Also, be ethical. If you're gonna buy something and use it for commercial purchases, pay for the more expensive license. They technically don't have a way to verify it, but support other artists, you know? All right. And then JRO has a bunch of fantastic resources. Just this huge brush pack, he sold all of this together and it wasn't even that expensive. I believe I got this on ArtStation. So I'm looking at these little preview pictures here to pick which one that I want. I want a pretty simple trim piece. I'm looking for something skinnier. I think 57 is gonna be perfect. Let's try it out. Yep, that's gonna be perfect. All right, let's see how I want to layer this on. So I'm playing with the Z intensity in addition to the focal shift to see how the blend will happen. Yeah, I think just the vertical line looks nice. I'm curious if I want to add it to this other trim here. I don't think I do, but I might. I do like that. There we go, just some nice fine details there. It looks a little blurry on the edges, but I can clean that up manually with Dam Standard. And that's largely happening just because it wants even more polys, but I'm already at a lot and it's such a small little detail. I'm not worried about being perfectly crisp. There we are. And now let's add some small fabric folds. This is leather, so it's not going to be very creasy. So I'm only going to go in with some very thin fabric folds, and I'm going to use them pretty sparingly. Just enough to show tension. I'm actually going to lightly mask this trim here too, because it looks silly when it's deformed. So I'm putting a light mask right here that's pretty blurred on the edges, and I can run my fabric folds through it. Too many fabric folds. There we are. Monkey says, I feel like we should be listening to Frog's theme from Chrono Trigger. That would be very fitting. I've heard such great things about Chrono Trigger. I have not played it all the way through. I actually had a very good friend in college gift it to me for my birthday, but I did not have time to have any fun in college, much less finish the game, unfortunately. But I have plenty of time now. I really should pick it up again. I think I still have my 3DS too. Honestly, it might still be me not unpacked. I didn't bring very much with me across the country. Ricky and I didn't hire like a moving company. We have a trailer. We took that and enclosed, and if it fit, it fit. If it didn't, it didn't. But the enclosed trailer was pretty full because I brought a piano and our washer and dryer, which honestly that took up most of it. I think this doublet looks quite nice. Curious what Sai says, do you play piano? I do. I was a classically trained pianist for 11 years, and then I stopped taking lessons after that because I moved. So once I lived in a different city, I no longer had the same piano teacher any longer. For the first 2 years, my piano teacher was Mary Sargent. I'm not kidding. She was mean and made me cry. And after that, I had a different man who was just lovely. Such a good man. He's not dead. I'm talking about like he's dead. I just don't want to say his first and last name. I don't know, privacy. But Mary Sargent, I'm pretty sure, is dead. I'm not worried about it. She was mean. She was like 85 when I was 8, so I'm not as worried about that. Also, there's no way her last name was actually Sargent. Anyway, no, I considered myself a musician for a very long time. In my friend group growing up in middle school, we had, like, you know, the artist friend already. She was very talented, and even past being talented, she worked very hard. So that was our artist friend. Oh, new subscriber. Thank you so much. And yeah, I always consider myself a musician. I play piano. I also write songs. I play guitar and I sing. I'm much better at piano. If you guys put me in front of a piano, I could definitely play stuff that you'd be like, wow, that's very impressive. If you don't know anything about guitar, I could impress you on guitar. Monkey says, Chrono Trigger is one of my all-time favorite games story-wise. That's what I've heard. Non-Sleeper says, wait, you moved? Awesome. Yeah, so I grew up my entire life in California, specifically in Hanford, which is a small town in the valley. It's about an hour south of Fresno, if you're familiar with that. And I moved all the way across the country to Tennessee. I live just outside of Knoxville now. It is beautiful, and get this, guys. There are seasons here. The trees change color. They don't just die one day. And it's not sunny every single day. There's actually like, I think they're called clouds. I'm being facetious, but having different seasons has honestly been like weirdly huge for my mental health. I don't really struggle with mental health anymore, especially now I'm not in college. But it's been incredible to not live the same day every day. There's something about It's Always Sunny in California that truly drove me crazy. Again, I loved growing up there. It was very hard to move. I cried the entire time driving out of California. Largely because of my dad. I love my dad, and obviously he is still there. So I'm getting a little more sensitive as we get closer to the holidays because I have spent every holiday with my dad. This is the first time that I won't, so I am kind of bummed out about that. And I know it's like you could fly back, but it's not free, you know what I mean? And I think maybe it's time to start making my own holiday traditions. It's a little tricky. I think that happens pretty organically for most people because, you know, most people want children. Ricky and I don't. We never have. We talk about it well, it used to be like a couple times a year. Now it's less frequent just to make sure that we're on the same page, but it's just not something that we want. And as a result, it's a different path. Like usually like you move out, you meet someone, you have kids, and then you start having holidays with your new like nuclear family, right? But since we're not doing that, it kind of changes that natural progression a little bit, and we're trying to figure out what that's going to mean for us. And just in case anyone is curious, I don't have any super deep reasons for not wanting children. It has just literally never fit into like my DNA. Even like as a little kid, I never played with like babies and like dolls, and like I just do not have a nurturing instinct in me, guys. It just does not appeal to me at all, and it never has. Obviously, I like kids. Like I'm not a monster. I see the appeal. I do. It's just I understand the commitment and what it actually means. Gosh, I'm talking about it like getting a new dog. It's just not for me. Monkey says, I too play music and was a musician before I was an artist. No kidding. Oh, I love that. I play guitar, bass, piano, and drums, mainly bass. I was gonna say, I'm like, you strike me as a bassist. Oh, I love that I was right. That's so cool. You just get cool vibes. Sai says, I love how much you share. And I'm glad you said that because I kind of trailed off about the children thing because I'm like, oh my God, I'm telling internets on the stranger about my life decisions while I sculpt a frog. This is not the life path I planned for myself. I'm not mad about it by any means. I love talking about it. But it does feel intimate, you know? And there's something about talking about that and looking down, looking at this goofy little face. The irony is not lost on me. It's not. Goodness. Right now I'm kind of painting in some spots right now just because I think the contrast is providing, it's just giving a little more life to this character. The requester actually told me what color scheme his character is, but it's black and purple, and I would have to recolor the rest of them all to match. So we're gonna go with this classic tree frog green and red eyes. Yeah, your comment, Sai, came in at a nice time. I was literally just thinking, I'm like, ooh, I'm really going on a tangent here. It's a little personal. I'm an open book, and to me, it's not a taboo topic at all. I remember in high school, one of my biggest pet peeves is when I would say something and people would respond with, that's deep. Like it was such like a serious, heavy topic. I don't know, you have something interesting to say, sure. If you don't, don't. Terrible at small talk. Which is ironic because I actually do love talking about the weather. I do not consider that small talk. Part of the reason for that is because, kind of a fun fact, my dad's a meteorologist, so he's not the guy on TV doing weather stuff, but obviously he knows a lot about weather. So I always thought it was cool, but then the fact that my dad could actually answer all my questions about clouds and all that stuff definitely led to a love for weather, which is funny because, again, I grew up in Hanford, California. We did not have weather. Outside Knoxville, we don't get much snow, but we probably will get some snow, and I have never seen falling snow in my entire life. I've seen it on the ground, so I'm excited about that too. A lot of big changes this year. All right, we've got some nice poly paint on him, and I'm gonna look for adding some more details. I'm really gonna make this character special and sing, and then we're gonna pose him. It's gonna be a good time. Monkey adds to that, and I cannot sing. Yeah, I believe you. Not because I had a guess about that, but I used to think everyone could sing until I listened to my dad. He's so funny. Gosh, like he'll hum and like sing this up. Nope. Which is funny because my grandpa is a songbird. My grandpa, it just has a lovely voice. My grandma doesn't, so maybe my dad got it from her. Non-sleeper says, all I know is you can teach someone as crotchety and old as me, you can teach anyone. Aw, that's very sweet. You were a great student though. You picked up so quickly. Too quickly. Oh my gosh, I'll never forget what a hard time I gave you. Again, it just did not make sense. I was like, there's no way that you picked this up so quickly. You had such a good attitude about it though. Again, anytime, message me. I'm gonna honor that deal I offered you. Happy to teach you forever for free. But for everyone else, it's a neural mentorship program. I offer that on Patreon. If you're interested, I have it pinned at the top. And you do have to have either ZBrush or ZBrush Core to go through my mentorship course. But ZBrush Core is much cheaper. They don't offer it as plainly on the website. It's not ZBrush Core Mini. It's just called ZBrush Core. And honestly, it's really all you need for a long time in the beginning. Eventually, as you take ZBrush more seriously, you're going to want more of those tools that ZBrush offers, but they have identical UI, so the transition will be really smooth. I used ZBrush Core for a long time, even professionally. It took me a while to upgrade. Gosh, what a fun character this is. I want to add more details. I don't know. I'm thinking it's strap across here, and it'll look like what his weapons are pinned to as well. Let's go ahead and do that. To add a strap, I'm going to duplicate this base mesh here and then delete all the subdivs, and that's because you can't add a curve brush onto something with subdivision levels. There we go. So that was really fast. I clicked on curve strap snap. I drug out a line. Do not take your pen off the tablet. You click, drag a line, do not pick it up, and then hold shift on your keyboard. When you do that, it auto syncs a line. Usually not this easy and this clean. This actually worked out really well. And there you go, you have a strap. I'm gonna hit split mask point, so this is its own piece. And now we're gonna start detailing it. I'm gonna hold command and drag on this little square here to increase the size. And we're also gonna poly paint it brown. I'm gonna grab the move brush to move it off the body just a touch. There we are. So it's perfectly flat right now. It's not very interesting to look at, so let's change that. I'm gonna go into Z Modeler brush and let's insert some loops. The Z Modeler brush, I'm not as detailed in my live streams because it's truly gonna just confuse y'all to death. It's a very complicated brush, but I have in-depth video lessons on that for my mentorship students. All right, that's looking a little nicer, more substantial. Non-sleeper continues. I'll be contacting you more in December or January. Oh, you mentioned. Love watching you have fun creating and smiling. Well, I'm good. I'm a smiley person. I remember reading something online that was talking about how you can spot like American tourists. And at first I'm like, oh goodness, is it because we're loud and that kind of stuff? No, I mean, what I read largely online, which has to be true then, is that you can always tell like it's an American tourist internationally because we smile all the time. We smile at like mundane things. I just genuinely find that there's a lot to smile about. Yeah, that's very cheesy, but I truly believe that. And I really am having so much fun. I cannot express enough without getting super sappy about how lucky I feel to be able to do this. And Ricky and I talk about it all the time, like if there comes a day where I have to like get a quote unquote normal job and work as an engineer, I'm okay with that too. I already feel very lucky that I've been able to do this for as long as I have. And I'll continue to work hard to make that stay the truth. I've been doing it 5 years and it just gets better. Business is always, I've been very blessed. It's been great. So I'll just keep doing this as long as you guys will have me pretty much. I'm thinking of adding some sort of pack or satchel right here to hang on that side. Oh, I wonder if I should mirror these belts, give them some like a cross belt. I'm gonna try that really quickly. I love that I'm pivoting this live stream conversation from life decisions to like, ooh, belts. I think this is gonna make it look too busy. Yeah, I don't know if I like that as much. Especially because I want to add some more asymmetrical details. Nah, more asymmetry. All right, I'm going to bring in my items asset library. This asset library is pretty large. Visibility sets would help right here. Taylor says he needs a Robin Hood hat. Oh, gosh, doesn't he? I wanted to do that to make him a ranger. I don't know if the way this guy described him, I don't know if he wants like a feathered hat. I would love that. Maybe I should give him a hood at least. No, I'd cover up his weapons. He looks like he needs a Robin Hood hat though. Non-sleeper said, cross belts, one per sword. I was thinking that. I really want to lean into this asymmetrical look. All good stuff though. I always appreciate the feedback. I really do. If I don't like the way I add these details, I'm gonna go back to cross belts. All right, he'd be a fighter. These little bags I think would look great pinned on his hip. And since there's 3 of them, it'll be easier to fit to round off. Again, I love when models have some, lots of asymmetric details. All right, I'm gonna poly paint these really quickly. There we go. And then maybe I'll even grab those buttons and make them silver, kind of continue with this color palette I've got going on. I don't talk too much about color. I color things remarkably consistently. It's not intentional, it's just the colors that I use. When you are poly painting though, if I can give you guys a brief tip, do not hang out over here in the saturated area. I'm not saying you can't use saturated colors, but it just makes it so much harder. And do not use pure blacks or pure whites. Hang out somewhere over here. That's like where my entire color palette lives. It's also because I like pastels. And again, you can use saturated colors, but when you go too saturated, it's so hard to balance and play nicely with. And that's another reason why it's kind of a hard rule for me. I never use pure blacks or pure whites. If you see me using that, it's because one, I'm either trying to do like a black silhouette to like just visualize a character, or 2, I have a matte cap that already has a color on it. So even though I'm clicking a pure white or black, it's actually not presenting that color. And then matte caps are just materials in ZBrush, in case you're wondering what I was referring to. So the main reason why I didn't care for the cross belts is because he also has this horizontal belt. So I'm wondering if maybe instead I will either lower this or make it smaller. and then bring the cross belts back. Yep, that's why I didn't care for it earlier. Now that I've done that, I actually like it quite a bit. Getting rid of that intersection point. And then it doesn't quite fit his shoulder. There we go. This is looking very detailed, very nice. I'm gonna go ahead and mask the top of this belt, just so, because right now it's curving the wrong way. It should curve slightly up. It seems like a really small detail to fixate on, but it really just helps guide your eye. I'm really obsessed with lines. There we go. I just want it curving up, not down and crooked. There we go. I'm gonna briefly see what it looks like mirrored and welded. Yeah, that's too many pouches. Nope. I like it. I like it a lot. Taylor says, I know you already made him with these swords, but hook swords would fit his personality. Oh yeah, I feel like hook swords look exactly how you're describing, but I want to look it up just to make sure I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes, these are so freaking cool. That is so cool. You know what it really reminds me of? Whenever I see hook swords, I always think of Jet from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Half of my brain at any given moment is Avatar: The Last Airbender in Dragon Age series. Like that is my whole composition up here. Hook swords are so cool. The requester asked for scimitars, otherwise I would do them. Similar vibe. I don't think he would mind, honestly, but I know this is his player character, so I'm gonna keep it as is, but you're so right. The fact that I haven't even done hook swords before, that's putting it on my radar. I definitely want to do that in the future. Gosh, it's been a very lovely and lively live stream. Thank you guys for hanging out with me on your Friday. I appreciate it. We've come quite a long way. Our details are coming together. He's really getting ready to be posed. A little reference here on the left, that's our stamp with all the base mesh forms before I added details. I still think a Robin Hood hat would be so cute, thinking about it. If the requester on Patreon specified that this was going to be a ranger, I would do it in a heartbeat, but he dual wields scimitars, and I don't think rangers are proficient in scimitars, so it has to be a fighter. His name is Pretty Kevin. Like, that sounds like someone that needs a hat. And for those that are coming in or lurking or new, I keep talking about Patreon. So this model is not of my own thought and creation. It's actually a request from Patreon, and that's where people ask me to sculpt things so they can then 3D print them for their tabletop games. This is specifically what was requested of me today. The requester says, I would love to request a tree frogfolk in leather armor with a pair of scimitars and a happy pose and expression. This would be great for my character, which is a purple and black spotted Gripply. I didn't paint it that way because 3D printers don't paint in color, or print in color, so I'm just painting however I want. And this is self-named Pretty Kevin on account of how pretty he is. Not just a fun little side detail. Oh, and this is the reference they sent me. They didn't create this art. This is just like a reference for the race. I never copy it exactly. And this isn't even the correct reference because this one's obviously a ranger or something like that because it has a bow and arrow. And then I found these references because I don't know what a tree frog looks like. So it's always important to have that. And this is the pose I will be doing, and I got this pose from the Pose Archives. I don't want to show that too much because that is a paid resource, not from me, but from the Pose Archives. I highly, highly recommend checking them out if you are an artist looking for good pose references. So yeah, that's a full recap on what exactly is going on here if you guys are new. We've had quite a few new people tune in here, so I'd like to keep you guys posted because I know what I do is pretty niche. Every single character that you see me sculpt on stream will end up in my Patreon and pre-supported. The pre-supported files are because I print everything. Once it's 3D printed and I like how it turned out, that's the file that I share. I predominantly print on resin, but I have been offering pre-supported files for FDM recently as well. All right, any small little details I want to add? I don't think so. I think we're getting ready to pose. It is time. I do all my posing in ZBrush, so I'll be prepping for that pretty soon. It's already been another good little chunk of time, so I'm gonna go ahead and take a little break. My breaks aren't super long. It's just like 2 minutes and I just drink water and stretch. But yeah, I'll be back in about 2 minutes. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. If you have any questions, put them in the chat now, and when I come back, I will answer those right away. All right, I'll be back in just a couple minutes. Thank you guys for hanging out. Hello, I am back. That's probably my final break, and I'm gonna move on to posing and post-processing and then sharing this file with y'all for free. So if you have a 3D printer, this will be great. Even if you just like to make your own meshes and stuff, I can see downloading it and playing around with it. It'll be watertight, so you won't be able to play with the individual assets, but either way, it'll be free for y'all to do whatever you want with it. Alright, and a non-sleeper had a lot of good stuff to say. They said the new bamboo printers are even good with minis. This is so true. That's partly why I've been offering pre-supported in projects for FDM as well, because it is just such an incredible machine and it can print minis. And yeah, he specifies there at FDM. And a non-sleeper continues, they say, if you're at all interested in learning ZBrush, I encourage you to join her Patreon. Oh, it's very sweet. It'll propel you forward and expand your knowledge at a pace that's comfortable for you. Like our hosts, it's important to warm up, stretch, and stretch while working, stay limber. Absolutely. But yeah, if you guys aren't interested in learning how to sculpt, I do teach. I have that pinned comment right now. If you have questions about it, just let me know. As of right now, I have a handful of students, like 30 or so. If that continues to grow, I'll probably start doing dedicated live streams just for students. You guys can ask questions, and I'll probably do a couple different time zones so I can catch all of you guys. Because for me, Eastern time, I start at 11 a.m. I know for a lot of you guys that is too early or too late. And plus, it's a Friday, so I'd probably do streams on the weekends too. Anyway, let's continue here. He's all ready, so I'm going to prepare him for posing. I like to pose in Transpose Master, which takes all of these pieces right here, subtools, merges them into one, and so I can select multiple at the same time, like seamlessly. And then at the end, it spits them back out into their subtools where they originally were. So to do that, I like to make sure I don't have too many pieces. I could do it just as it is, but I like to clean it up before I go into Transpose Master. All right, so I'm just grabbing pieces that would move together. Looks good. Like for example, I'm probably gonna merge these little pouches onto the belt. The swords can be one piece. I'm not going to merge things down to have multiple subdivision levels though. Like for example, these pants go all the way down to this low resolution and all the way up to this high resolution. That's what subdivision levels are. So I'm not going to merge this little piece of metal onto that because it will ruin the subdiv levels. You can reconstruct them, but I don't trust it. It works some of the time. Alrighty, looking good. We don't have too many pieces here. So let's move on ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and drop a hard save. This is a Frogfolk fighter. And we're gonna put a new stamp up here. There we go. Gosh, she's so funny looking. I love this thing. It's so cute. It's got a Z plugin, Transpose Master, and T-Pose Mesh. I really wish it just said like start and finish, not T-Pose Mesh, because that just doesn't mean anything to me. Okay. I like to click on P for perspective on my keyboard, which will turn off perspective, which means there's no distortion of the lens of how closer things don't look larger. Everything is the same, also known as like orthographic view. So his nose here is larger because it's closer to the camera when perspective is on. So if you look right here, when I turn perspective on and off, that's what the difference is. It's not a huge deal. I just like doing it when I pose to make sure the feet are flat because again, this is for a tabletop mini and that will print flat on a base. Alrighty, let's get this pose going. I like to pose from the feet up. I find it just easier to adjust the weight in their hips first and then build on top of that as I move forward. I'm always coming up with different posing techniques, honestly. This is just the one that currently works for me. I mean, it's always in Transpose Master, as the last few years. But as far as whether I pose from the top down or whatever, that's always changing. You'll notice it's a very, very important where I am choosing to place my mask. So I want to bend his knee, so I mask at the knee, and the gizmo is at that hinge point. You don't want to like have your gizmo here and try to rotate. See how that breaks his entire body? That looks painful. You want to put the gizmo where you will be posing. And you don't have to use a gizmo. You can also use this transpose line. I just find that the transpose line confuses my students to death, so I like to introduce a transpose line to them later when they're wanting a few more tools in their belt. That's one of the things I'm most proud about with my teaching program, is that it's a mentorship program, so you get access to like videos I've made and stuff, but the big thing is like I tailor it to you. And if I think you want more tools or something a technique would suit you better, I can introduce things to you earlier or later. His foot is kind of broken looking from the front. Again, when you're posing, make sure you're looking at all of your angles. So let's go ahead and tuck that back. There we go. I don't mind that it's a little flexy looking. All right, and now we're gonna put his other leg behind him. We're also gonna tuck it towards the center line a bit more, because that's where his like center of mass will be. It'll just make him look a little more balanced. Even though it's a dynamic pose, he should still have a good center of balance. He shouldn't look like he's gonna topple over. This is gonna be such a cute, happy-go-lucky pose. You can kind of already see it coming together. This is one of my favorite parts of my job. If you watch enough of my streams, you're gonna roll your eyes when I say that, because I say that all the time. I just really like my job. You'll also notice that as I move these pieces around, I'm also blurring the mask quite a bit. That's just to get a smoother transition without any harsh lines. Looking pretty good. I'm gonna pose his arms first, and then I'm gonna grab from his waist up to rotate his rib cage, and that will kind of give him a little more fluidity in the pose. But I wanna do the arms now because it's easier to select the arms when it's face on. You'll notice that I removed the doublet as well to mask the arm, and that's because I want to make sure I get this entire deltoid here up to his shoulder. I don't want to deform the shirt. There we go. Being very careful with that selection. Now if I hit Command Shift, it shows all the subtools again. There we go. It's a lot of shift clicking, command clicking to invert my mask. It feels like a lot when you're first starting out. It really feels alien because there's so many like little like hotkeys and buttons and nonsense. But as you practice it, just work slowly, you'll get better at it. I actually think I want this arm a bit farther behind him, because if I was moving, yeah, I'm looking at my reference, so my references are important. As his knee moves forward on that same side, the other leg moves back, because we don't move like a train, we move in balance. Okay, this arm needs to be back and his other arm will be forward. Taking a lot of care of where I mask by the elbow, and then positioning the gizmo to be right at that bend point. That looks pretty good. Now let's do the same thing for his other arm, except this one will be moving forward. All right, this pose is probably about 60% done. This model is so cute. I'm really, really happy with it. Definitely a good one for Friday. It's just like he's walking into the weekend. Do you guys have anything fun planned for the weekend? I'm gonna be playing Dragon Age Veilguard. I already know what I'm gonna be doing. I might move his fingers around a bit because right now the openness of them doesn't really suit the model. Like it'd be a fist, but I like that he has like these froggy fingers, so I kind of want to show those still. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move some of his fingers a little closer together. When I'm doing organic deformations like this, I like to use the transpose line. Because by default, our fingers kind of naturally curve together, and that will apply even if you're a frog. I'm gonna put a little bit of a bend in this finger. It seems like such a small detail, but I swear, our hands are so expressive. There we go. Just by having his hands close up a little bit, it makes it look a little more natural. I'm also going to add a little flick in his wrist right here. And let's go ahead and pose his head as well. He's going to be rotating, slightly looking over his shoulder with a nice little head tilt. So as cute as this pose is looking, it's still a little stiff, and the reason for that is because his hips and his shoulders are directly stacked on top of each other. So in order to soften that up, the concept called contrapposto, posto, you want to make sure there's a curve. In this case, this shoulder and this hip are going to be going towards each other. That's just the movement here. So I'm going to do a mask, turn off perspective, there we go. So I did two movements there. One, I broke the angle of his shoulders and hips so they're not stacked on top of each other like a box, and I also rotated his rib cage. He's looking a little too far up right now, but I'm not worried about that because I'm just focused on the piece that I'm moving. Looks good. Actually going to mask quite a bit of this, and I'm also going to select a little higher up on his rib cage to bend him down because he's leaning back just a touch too much. There we are. I'm gonna drop a quick save just in case ZBrush decides to get spicy with me. All right, went ahead and move that down. And let's readjust his head again. I might need to put a fist in that hand. It being open looks like he's supposed to be carrying something. Overall, this is going quite well though. Yeah, my reference is both of his hands are bald, and that's surprisingly looking like it's going to be necessary. I also need to move this elbow farther away from his body, which is funny because usually that creates a stiffer pose. But in this case, I need it. All right, a little trickier to do this mask here, so I'm just being very careful with my angles. To make this easier on myself, I'm going to mask this piece individually and then grab the body and mask this individually. There we go. There we are. All right, let's move that a little farther out. And now let's select the entirety of his arm up to his shoulder. So much of the sculpting process is making a change and now thinking, okay, what did that change? What do things look like now? It's a lot of reassessing. I'm gonna use a transpose line. And pull his shoulder out a little bit more. This line here on his legs is a little odd, and part of that is because he has these digitigrade legs, but also part of that is because it's just looking a little odd. So let's go ahead and adjust his bow legs here. That's looking better. It was just lacking a little bit of volume. Overall, I'm pretty happy with this pose already. Needs some fine tuning and adjustments, but that's pretty normal. If you're looking at this model and you like what you see, and you either want the model or want to get your own character made, I have a Patreon for that, which is M3DM. If you want to learn how to sculpt this, it's M3DM Learn. Both of those are linked in the description. If you just want to hang out, just keep hanging out. I do this Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So it's actually my last day of the week. It's my first week doing this every single day too. I was worried it was really gonna burn me out. I wanted to try it, and I'm really glad I did because it's just been so much fun. And a lot of that's to do with you guys. So thanks for being kind and supportive. It's just been lovely. I felt very lucky to have such a kind audience. All right, I definitely need to make his hands fists, so we're gonna go ahead and do that. And then I might do one more adjustment to this pose later. I tend to do it in 2 stages. I do like the bulk of the posing, like the big deformations like this. And then I go back to my subtools, kind of refine them, and then do a final pose. Sometimes I don't need to, sometimes I do. All right, T-pose, sub-T, and that will put us, all these deformations I did in Transpose Master will now be applied to my individual subtools. There we go. It looks kind of funny because I have his eyeballs painted looking straight forward, and obviously I haven't repainted them yet. So you're expecting the eyes to look at you in the camera, but they're just kind of dopey looking straight into the ground. Again, that just has to do with poly paint. I'm probably not going to fix that simply because the poly paint doesn't affect the finished 3D model at all. One day it's going to matter because everyone's going to have color 3D printers, and that will be a very fancy day. Today is not that day. Once you're out of Transpose Master and you're making individual adjustments to your subtools, make sure you turn off symmetry because it does not turn off by default. You can do that really quickly by just clicking X on your keyboard. So yeah, we've got some funniness around the shoulders here. And the elbows. Always the elbows. There's always problems with elbows. For the most part, our fabric folds have held up really nicely. Feet look good. He's just a goofy guy. I'm gonna put scimitars a little higher on his back. And make sure they're on the right plane. Rotate him just a touch. There we go. That also improves his silhouette. Oh, Rob's here. Hi. He said he's beautiful. I'm so glad. You are the requester, aren't you? Let me double check. I really need to put the notes on who requested what. You guys all request great things. So, and you especially. Oh my goodness, you've done so many fun models. This is your request. I thought so. It's pretty, Kevin. It's happening. I didn't paint him with the purple and black, but it's still pretty awesome. That's just because green's easier to work with. Yeah, I knew it was you. Very cool. It's been so much fun. I'm so glad that you see him live. To me, that's just the coolest thing. So yeah, he's looking a little dopey in his pose right now, and his eyes are just like staring at the ground. Just has to do with the poly paint. Almost done though, almost. All right, and he definitely needs his hands and fists because the open hands just looks like he's about to fall. So let's go ahead and load in our base mesh for that. I didn't initially want to close his hands and fists because I love his little weird frog fingers, but it's just gonna make the pose read better. And I can still give him funny little frog fingers, even like this. All right. Here we are. And there's a couple things I need to do here. One, I need to change the color to match the palette here. And then two, I need to change the material. This doesn't affect the finished 3D model, but it sure makes the render look nicer. I like using toy plastic, usually for eyeballs, but in this case, also for frog skin. And Rob says thank you. You're so, so welcome. I talk about doing requests on Patreon all the time in this stream, but I feel like all the pieces come together. So for all my lurkers or people that just kind of hang out, this is the person I'm making the model for. They ask for it on Patreon, they support me, I get to do this full time as a living, and afford to eat and keep the lights on, among various other things. It's just a happy little circle. All right, let's go ahead and inflate this a touch. Make sure my paintbrush is on with mRGB selected. That's gonna do two things. The M is for material and the RGB is for color. So now he's gonna have a shiny hand with the right color. I'm gonna wanna put some spots on this hand because obviously this was supposed to be a human hand. And to do that, I like to come in with the mask pen brush. I usually have mask lasso selected. And we're gonna just draw some shapes on. I'm also gonna subdivide it one more time just so I have nice, smooth dots here. There we go. Whenever I'm doing spots like this, I'm thinking rounded squares and rounded triangles. There we go. Just gonna do a few. I'm not gonna do any too close to his wrist because he's gonna have these feather and leather bracers on, and I don't want them to clip through. Now we're gonna paint these spots a little darker, undo the mask, and there you go. We got a frog hand. We're gonna mirror this so that way he has a left hand first. It's possible I won't want this change either. I'm pretty sure I do, so I wanna try it. Also gonna drop a quick save because I'm making a lot of progress and I feel like I'm threatening ZBrush to crash on me. Ella's here. Hello, Natalie. Always good to see you. Hello. Mostly lurking, but want to say hi. I always appreciate it. I really do. I know everyone, including you especially, is so excited for second season of Arcane comes out today, right? I can't remember if you said today or tomorrow. Oh yeah, the fist looks a lot better. Not that gigantic. There we go. That's a better silhouette. Cute. Cute as heck. Taylor says he needs a bundle of poisonous mushrooms. I think he might. I can actually, at the very least, I can imagine them being in these little pouches, but I can also put just a couple poking out. Maybe, and he's, I don't know if tree frogs are poisonous, but like with the coloring and stuff, it's still very frog-esque too. So to have a couple mushrooms like tucked in, I think would be nice detail. Oh, his funny, weird little frog body. There we go. I've hidden both of his hands. And now we're gonna duplicate this fist, mirror, and now we got two. He's currently giving himself a fist bump. Let's go put his hand where it belongs. Taylor, you always have so many good suggestions. I'm never gonna forget your suggestion for the magical pangolin that made that model so much more clear to read. Even though I didn't really implement the suggestion like you initially had intended, it just worked out so well though. When I live streamed, like initially I didn't really have a plan of people being part of the creative process, but that's kind of what it's turned into, and it's really nice. And I don't feel pressure to take suggestions I don't want to either. It's just all food for the creative brain. Oh, and Ella confirmed, yes, Arcane Season 2 today. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I know what a lot of you guys are doing this weekend then. Monkey especially, I know he was excited. Oh my gosh, he's so cute. I love all my models, but every now and then, goodness. Taylor says, I sometimes think I make too many suggestions. Oh no, I don't mind at all. I really, really don't. And I don't feel any pressure to do them either. Like, oh, I really want to do the hook swords. I do. But, because you don't know like what information I'm working with that's necessary or not necessary. Never feel shy about it. And also, I hope you don't feel bad if I'm not implementing them, because it's all going in here. The hook swords are happening. Maybe it wasn't this character, but I'm gonna have a request in the future where they don't specify a weapon. They're just gonna be like, oh, he's a fighter or whatever. And I'll be like, hook sword. Seed has been planted. Goodness, this has been such a lively stream. I don't think I've ever had this many viewers or this many people liking the stream. Thank you guys so much. I mean, it seriously affects everything. It's a big deal to me. I really appreciate it. Non-Sleeper says, congrats, Ella. And yeah, she does have a Kickstarter going live right now. I'm not sure how much is left on it. But there's a super cute diorama she put together. So similar to Meditating Monkey, if you Google Ella's Arcana, you're gonna find a lot of cool stuff. Rob said, I love all of his pouches. Oh, good. I wanted them there to have an asymmetrical detail. It just looks awesome too. I'm also really happy with like the like leaf armor, and then I painted this the same way. Of course, fall colors, because it's fall. I made him a lot taller than my other Frogfolk too. Like I had at the very beginning of the stream, I actually had the Frogfolk florist up, and she has like this big little pot belly, and she's super short. I might even pull that up again because she's just so freaking cute. He is too. That's why I wanted to base him off of her. Frogfolk fighter, replace, very good. All right, just a really quick little throwback. We're gonna jump back to what we saw at the beginning of the live stream, so you guys know where this model started. And you could just click back to the start of the stream, but that's not as fun. So this is what this model started as the reference. I made this earlier this year, the Frogfolk Florist. Her proportions are a lot different. It might not be obvious right now, but if I show you guys her funny little body, you'll know. Like look at what a little like pot belly she had. She's super short. She's only like 3 heads tall. So this is a huge contrast to the warrior we're doing right now. Let's go ahead and open him back up again. There we go. I'm also impressed at like how well this reads as male and female, considering it's frogs. Like obviously this one has like flowery decorations and stuff, but I think it's more than that. It's also just the proportions and the way that I gave her this cute little belly and cinched her waist with this loose shirt and belt. It's so cute. I like what I do a lot. All right, I don't need that T-pose anymore, and I also don't need this asset library available. There we go. I think his head's looking up a little bit too much still, so I'm gonna kind of like bring him a little closer to the camera, but we're just about finished here. I also need to adjust these pouches to fit the belt a little better. I'm gonna split the mask so they're their own piece. And we're also gonna go back and select the correct material, which is skin shade 4. There we are. All right, pouches are all their own piece. Let's go ahead and pin that up to the belt. Where is the gizmo? There you go. Little rotation. There we go. That's better. Excellent. Rob says, yes, the leaf armor is such a great detail. I'm really glad you like it. Non-Sleeper says, still 12 viewers, only 3 likes. My side is showing 17. It might not update on your guys' side, but y'all are doing fantastic. I really appreciate all the love, I do. Taylor said, these are some of my favorite sculpts of yours I've seen. They look great. Really? That's so funny. Like, I love that. I didn't think frogs would be my specialty, guys. I guess they just speak to me. All right. Rob says, okay, great. So Rob is the guy who requested this model and supports me on Patreon. So here's some backstory. One, his name is Pretty Kevin. Who doesn't love that? All right, Rob says, this is the guy's backstory. It's fun. He's a ranger. Oh, he is a ranger. I was going to put that on there. I wasn't sure if rangers could wield scimitars. They're proficient. Anyway. He's a ranger whose animal companion is a giant toad named Big Mouth, whom he rides. He's also super sneaky and speaks with an admittedly terrible Cockney accent. Oh, that's beautiful. That is essential information. Love that. Thank you for sharing that. All of the models that you request have such fun backstories. Taylor, I really appreciate that you mentioned these are some of like your favorite models of mine, because I created the frog base mesh completely from scratch. My human base meshes are somewhat begun in ZBuilder, which is from a guy who sells them on Gumroad. I just use it for proportions and musculature, but the face I sculpt myself. But the frogs, this is just me sculpting that. So this is just my interpretation of it. So it's especially high praise that you like these so much. And yes, Rob continues, Pretty Kevin, on account of he's so pretty. I love that little moniker. All right, I'm gonna put this back into T-pose mesh to get a couple more adjustments on here, and after that, we're going straight into post-processing. I'll be sharing this model on stream for free. If you're watching in the future, it's no longer free. It's only free very briefly for about 5 minutes at the end of the stream. But it will be available on Patreon and my mini factory. Patreon's definitely the better deal by a landslide because it's $7 gets you everything. It's almost like 1,000 models. But my mini factory, they're $3 each. But I totally understand not liking subscriptions. If you want individual models, that's the place to go. So yeah, Rob, I won't have the pre-supported file available, but you'll be able to get this guy today. And then if you have to leave the stream early, don't worry about it. I'll just DM you on Discord because you're already in the Discord. Why is this RGB? Step it. Right now I'm kind of just patching up his elbow here. making sure there's not any weird creases. Oh, look at his funny little frog butt. This model is so cute. All right, looking pretty good. It's very important that if you use Transpose Master that your entire mesh is visible. If you have hidden selections, like how I do, like the hands here are hidden, you'll get a vertex mismatch error, which means that all that beautiful posing you did will not successfully apply back onto your subtool. It's truly heartbreaking. It's the worst. So again, to all my people that use ZBrush, I'm gonna say it again. When you pose in Transpose Master, please make sure that every piece of your mesh is visible. You can hide subtools entirely, that's fine, but you cannot hide pieces of your subtool. It breaks the whole thing. Rob said, thanks, that's literally my favorite part of the RPG hobby, character creation. The game itself is secondary. Yeah, I get you. Like, I used to be in part of quite a few, like, D&D games, and now I'm in 0. I like everything surrounding D&D more than actually playing it, weirdly. I kind of get the playing aspect by playing games like Pathfinder, Wrath of the Righteous, Baldur's Gate, that kind of stuff. Robert said, I printed my last request, the Dragonborn pirate, as large as my resin printer would make him, to paint him as a statue. That's awesome. That's so awesome. If you have it conveniently available, I would love to see that in Discord, but if not, don't worry about it. If there's anybody lurking who wants to be part of my Discord community but isn't, technically it's a Patreon paid feature, but it's my Discord, I can do whatever I want. So if you want an invite, let me know and I'll just put that in the chat for everyone. I'm pretty sure everyone here is already in it. Otherwise we'll see. All right, before I forget, I'm going to make sure I delete the part of the mesh that's hidden, as I said very aggressively earlier. Saving myself some heartache here. Delete hidden, and close holes. There we go, very nice. Oh, it's mRGB, that's why. Stop, you're being silly. All right, that looks good. And then we're gonna do one last round of posing and minor adjustments in Transpose Master. I like him as he is, but I've noticed when I'm on stream, I work a little bit slower and I really enjoy just doing all these little fine touches and stuff. Rob says, I haven't printed them yet. Oh, okay, or painted them yet, gotcha. I'll send pics soon though. Sounds good, I'm really excited. All right, I feel like his head doesn't have enough bend. So I'm going to mask right under his funny little frog jawline. There we go. And put the 3D gizmo at the base of his neck. Adjust the axis, and let's just get a little, bring his nose down. I almost feel like it's supposed to be mirrored. No, I guess I do like chin up. What if it's chin up, but rotated? I might have got it right the first time. I just wanted to make sure I saw it. All the options. Okay, we're not gonna worry about it breaking his head. We're gonna just worry about seeing what I want for a second. That's what it is. I want him to look straighter. But it's possible, I just want to change the whole alpha angle instead. So let's just do that. Okay, yeah, no, it's the straighter look. Okay, cool, I know what I want. Undoing these adjustments really quick. There we go. We're pretty much gonna be moving his entire head, but not really. There we go. All right, let's bring that down and then turn it so he's facing the camera. There we go, that's what I was wanting. I also feel like I still want to put his elbow even further out, which the reason for that is because there's like an imaginary line I can see right here. It's just like it's not even a line of action, just it's a balance point that is aesthetically pleasing. That one's kind of hard to word. Both of his arms need to be farther away. That's what I'm trying to say. It's pretty nice as is, but it will be stronger and better with this little adjustment here. So I don't have subdivision levels on his body anymore, so if this is going to deform things too much, it's not a worthwhile adjustment, but I think I can do it. Because if it makes a harsh crease right here, I can just crease it as like his deltoid muscle. There's lots of ways I can play it off. There you go. It's such a small thing, but I really think it helps. Yeah, like, you know, he's just doing this. Much better. Quite literally opening up the pose by pushing his elbows farther away from his body. And you'll hear in most of my live streams, I'm always trying to tuck the elbows in, because you don't normally have a relaxed dynamic pose with the elbows far away from the body. Usually that adds tension to the pose. Not in this case. In this case, it is necessary and very cute. I need to bring this knee up higher. There we go. All right, I'm gonna do the same thing to the other side because right now the silhouette has a bit of an unclear mark. So let me teach y'all something really quick. We're gonna go to, there, pure black. I like to do this when I'm reviewing a pose. I'll put it in pure black, and what makes it more readable. So I can tell just by looking at this black silhouette here, I can see he has a weapon. I can tell it's a sword. I can see some C-shaped line of action, which is pretty good. Right here is a little unclear though. There's no gap right here. So if I push his elbow out farther to the right, it's gonna open up that pose and make it a lot more readable. Obviously it's a 3D model, so if you turn it, it's cheating. You can, like this, you can really tell what the pose silhouette is. That's great. But when I have this model rendered, I'm not uploading 3D GIFs on all these like different areas or sites where I sell this model. It needs to read very clearly from one angle, even though it is a 3D model. So yeah, I'll make sure to do that. But yeah, I like outline thin whenever I am trying to assess the pose or silhouette of a model. Let's go back to skin shade so I can see the model. And again, we're gonna push that farther away. There's a similar principle in illustration where you don't want tangents, the same kind of thing. And also, just to put this out there, I am not an illustrator, I am a 3D artist, but there are some things I pick up on, just in case someone's like, oh, she illustrates too? No, I do not. I can draw very cute, like cartoonish style illustrations, but that is not the same as being an illustrator. All right, so I've pushed that elbow a little farther away. You can see I'm getting kind of a bit of a stretch deformation here, and that's because I don't have the subdivision levels I had earlier to work with. But that's okay, I can sculpt that. All right, there we go. Look how much more clear that is. Yes, looks good. Taylor says this pose has a lot of personality. Thank you. I'm trying to get better at my poses, and half of that is just picking better poses. Monkey says, I'm back. Welcome back. I missed like half the stream. Well, pose looks awesome. Yeah, no worry. You know where I'm at. I'm always here. Alrighty. I think I want to scoot the weapons over just a touch. Nah, I like that they're actually lined up perfectly on his back. Looking from the top down view, I'm pretty happy with that as well. The swords are nice and thick, so they're gonna print no problem. All right, we're looking really good. Ella says, someday I'll learn Photoshop to make images and my models look like cute little illustration. Monkey, you should do a class. You really should, Monkey. He explained it fantastically to me. He actually did a video call with me on Discord just to show me his process, because he's awesome. Yeah, he says, I could. You should, it's so cool. Monkey says, maybe, I'm not sure if I'm a good teacher. I mean, even if you're not like a teacher type, as long as you repeat yourself a couple times and say every button you're clicking very clearly, that's all that matters, honestly. That gets you 90% of the way there. That's one of the big things, like, I always remind myself when I'm teaching. I make sure I repeat what I'm doing at least 3 times. and it can get redundant sounding, but it's much, much easier to follow. Because if you're expecting people to follow things the first time you said it perfectly, that's very hard to follow. Almost done. Taylor says, this would be so fun to apply digital materials to, right? Because he's got like that slimy, like shiny frog body, and I have some metal on there. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff going on here. That's why I thought about getting Substance Painter, like you mentioned it. It just doesn't really have a meaningful impact on like my business. It would just make it for a fun thing. It's kind of fun to watch that pose get applied there. All right, this pose is looking stronger. Let's fix these funny errors that popped up. Very, very easy. I'm just taking that move brush and just nudging his arms back into place. There we go. All right, making sure there's no weird clipping or intersections. And then we're gonna run from the top down and get him ready for 3D printing. All right, the reason why there's this weird like line right here is because it's confused on what material it wants to be. So let me go back to toy plastic really quick. Apply it again, material fill. And now it won't be there when I go back to skin shade. Ta-da! All right, now I'm just aggressively smoothing. Aha, now it's smooth. Dude, he looks awesome. Let's fix his butt. I don't like that fabric fold. We're gonna just remove it. Actually, I don't like any of these fabric folds. We're gonna just remove all of them. There we go. Kind of tempted just to tack on some pockets. Is that worth doing that? Nah, I'm not gonna be able to see him. Let's just do a couple clear fabric folds. There we go. It doesn't need to be a perfect frog butt, but before it was looking more diaper-like. I didn't like it. That's been fixed. Right now I'm kind of just fixing which material is on top. Very good. He rocks. And then Sleeper says, any more spots in the back of the neck? I completely forgot. Thank you. When I have a plan, I'll be honest with y'all. When I forgot something, I'm just gonna tell you. I completely forgot. Thank you. Wouldn't have been the end of the world, but this definitely is nicer. And it takes like no time for me to put these on here too. Bam, now we got spots in the back of the neck too. How nice. Thank you very much for the reminder. It's probably because I haven't been looking at the back of him very much. I have been very focused on the front. And I'm saying it a lot, but thank you. That was very helpful. Monkey says, I'm also very proficient in Photoshop, so I can help you there when you're ready. Yeah, Monkey, you're awesome. You're just awesome. Helpful, creative, talented. Love it. Alrighty. Almost done. I don't want to say this out loud because I know I'm just tempting the ZBrush gods, but I'm gonna say it anyway. ZBrush hasn't crashed today. Crazy. Again, it really doesn't crash that much when I'm not streaming, but it gets angry when I stream. It really does. I'm gonna put another spot on his foot. And yeah, just like some cursedness for you guys. Tiny head. Because again, I use this from a human base mesh and then sculpt on top of it. But I just smush the head in the center. So I have nice subdivision levels still. Mucky agrees. Oh god, you just angered the ZBrush gods. Yeah, you can't brag about ZBrush not crashing when you still have ZBrush open. I should know better. Taylor said, I'd love to see you make a jester. So much personality in a character like that. I have made a jester before my Townsfolk collection. He's a little horrifying because it was an older model. But you're in luck. I actually had someone on Patreon request a jester. And not just that, it's a jester king. So he has a normal jester hat, right? Has a king crown on top of that, kind of like crooked. And he's sitting lazily across a throne. Like his legs like draped over it, like a feed me grapes kind of position. That makes sense. So you guys will be seeing that on stream in the upcoming weeks. How is this my job? Just love it. Okay. All right, we're getting ready for post-processing. So if you guys are hanging out right now and you also 3D print, I'm sharing this file for free. It will not be pre-supported because I literally just made it and I haven't test printed it yet. But the pre-supported file will be releasing to Patreon supporters in a couple days. And if you don't have a 3D printer, but you want to learn how to make your own frogs, I sculpt more than frogs, I teach. Links for all of that in the description. All right, let's get post-processing. Going to drop a hard save. And I think it's so funny that he's a ranger. I was going to call him that. Cool. I'm going to call him a ranger because that's what the actual model is. Ella said, your stream earlier this week inspired me to do a tiny hand yesterday for going inside a big spiky gauntlet. Doesn't it help? Isn't it just an easy, quick, dirty way of doing it? And I remember you sent me a picture of that. It was so funny. All right. We're turning off poly paint, but first let's go ahead and pin him up here so he can just smile at you guys cutely while I post-process. The way that I post-process destroys poly paint because I remesh by union, which does not play well with poly paint usually. But again, it doesn't really matter because it doesn't affect the 3D print, so I let the poly paint go at this stage. All right, let's just start working from the top down. I'm very proud of how cleanly this mesh was created, so this is gonna post-process pretty smoothly, I already know. First, we're gonna do his entire body. So what I'm doing is I'm selecting a subtool by holding Option and clicking. That's a quick way to select new subtools. I'm throwing it to the top of my subtool menu, which is over here. If you hold Shift and click on this little arrow with a right angle, it just spits it all the way to the top. So I'm spitting all these pieces to the top and then merging down. So there we go. Now I hit Shift F, you can see that all of these pieces are selected and they're different colors because they're different poly groups. We don't want that though. We want to 3D print this. So we're going to decimate and then we're going to merge, and any intersection points that we have, we're going to fix by doing remesh by union. So yeah, that's kind of the whole 3D printing prep process. Doesn't it sound easy when you put it that way? All my creators that are in the chat know it doesn't always work like that, but in theory, that's all you have to do to make something watertight is close holes, remesh, and you're fine. It's not really the case. But if you were really diligent in the construction of your mesh and did it cleanly and thoughtfully, you'd be fine. I love this model. I need to do more frogs, guys. I want more frog requests. I think this is only as far as like my new era of sculpting, with like my especially improved skill sets, I improved like drastically this year. This is my second frog, but from all my frogs combined, this is like my fourth or my fifth. And to be clear, I do love my early work still. I leveled up a lot this year, and that feels really good. I can really tell like what models I made this year versus years in the past. And all my creatives know growth is not linear. And it kind of felt like I had plateaued for a while there. And instead of fighting that, I just let it happen, you know? Pushing through a skill plateau is a really good way to burn yourself out. Just enjoy where you're at for a little bit. I was always looking towards other artists I admired, kind of like spotting the difference of what makes their work better, or what in my eyes, what makes it better. And then once I kind of had enough of those clear thoughts, I was able to implement it in my future work, and that's kind of what helped me push through to a new skill level. I could probably do a whole video about that, of like how to push through like creative plateaus and creative art blocks, because they're kind of this, they can feel like the same thing sometimes. All right, that's looking excellent. Let's go ahead and get this doublet remeshed. It says there's some mesh errors here, and I already know it's these leaves. Yup. So we're gonna deal with those leaves by themselves. Remesh by union, clean those up. It's super low poly, so I know it's gonna be really easy to work with. Yep, see those little gaps and artifacts? I just go ahead and delete them all. Close holes, remesh, bam. Check mesh integrity, we're golden. Monkey says, have you played Wild Beyond the Witchlight? I haven't. I haven't even heard of that. You know, I'm pretty proud of myself. I'm very into gaming in general, gaming news, new stuff. I play pretty much every platform, so I'm baffled that I have not heard that. I must take a small break. Wild Beyond the Witchlight. Oh, it's a book. They said played. Oh, like for D&D. That's why, okay, I thought it was a video game. This sounds fantastic though. It describes a wickedly whimsical adventure. That's my new moniker. People ask me how to describe myself in like 3 words. It'd be wickedly whimsical. That's beautiful. I love that. And then Monkey continues, there are some bullywugs in there. Bullywug, what a fun word. And one of the sections of that adventure that are really fun. God, I want to TM that module again. Well, it sounds lovely. It really does. Bullywug. All right, this is looking fantastic. No issues. This is going really smooth as I predicted because I was very thoughtful with the construction of this. Ella says, I started with a WBW, so yeah, Witch Beyond Witchlight campaign last year. Oh, that's where your DM and her boyfriend broke up. Or another player. Yeah, that sucks. That happens. Have you guys thought about... No, never mind. I was like, maybe out of the remnants of the group, starting a new game, but then that depends if which of the 2 you picked when they broke up. It's kind of how it works. Friend divorce. It's so funny. It's like who gets to keep the kids kind of thing. I don't know. Maybe you guys just play 2 separate games. One with each of the... That's a terrible idea. Never mind. All right, one of these is a little crooked the way it sits on his arm, so I'm gonna split this into its own polygroup and rotate it slightly, because I can just tell it's not sitting square. Click on this, R for rotate, and it just beautifully rotates that whole thing. Again, I love the transpose line, but I'm very careful when I introduce it to my students because it just confuses the crap out of them usually, which is understandable. I just refused to use the transpose line for a long time. The only reason I started using the transpose line is because there is an artist I super admire and she was using it a lot in her stream and I was like, I want to be like her. So I started using it and I learned how to use it. Kind of a silly motivation, but it works. Also, I'm not trying to be shy about like which artist I look up to. I don't know how to pronounce her name. I think her first name is Maria, so I'm confident in that, but her last name I think is Polish. Anyway, I'll have to look it up so I can like share it later. If you're familiar with like ZBrush works and stuff, she did this really awesome piece with a dragon and like a mouse. That's all I'm gonna say, because if you know what I'm talking about, you'll remember, and if you don't, I'm not gonna be able to I'm not gonna be able to explain it well enough. All right. This is going great. We're about halfway done the post-processing process. No issues yet. we're gonna go ahead and start merging things down to the main body. The next step here though, I'm just gonna merge this belt. It's pretty small beans. And then Ella just plainly pointed out, she's like, yeah, the boyfriend sock. Okay, well that makes it really easy. Oh, you're doing Curse of Strahd right now. Very cool. Strahd's great. I never finished it. Kind of the same thing. Friend group just kind of, it's not even so much fell apart. Everyone kind of just drifted different ways. People were graduating. It just kind of happens. All right, looking good. Merge that down, and now remeshing the whole thing. I need to remesh these toes and then hide these cursed little human toes hiding underneath. Nobody wants that. Fixed. Yeah, inside every single humanoid creature I do is cursed little human parts because that's what I kit bash together. There we go. Need to merge this down though so I don't want these seams to be as apparent. It's not a big deal on the other foot because it's touching the base of the miniature, but on this side, you can see it and it doesn't look good. Run that over the smooth brush. There we go. Fixed. This is reporting some mesh errors, so let's go ahead and clean that up. Excellent. And then Ella continues, inside you, there are 2 tiny hands. And that's just a joke reference to the way that I construct some of these models. For example, if I'm putting like a different posed hand, I just take the previous hands and shrink them down and then put the new hand on top. It works. You know, I've already joked that I can see at some point, like making t-shirts or something with things that get said on the stream frequently. And I hate to say it, but so far one of the front runners is inside you there are 2 tiny hands. It's too goofy and too silly. Maybe that's better as a sticker, not a sweatshirt. I don't really want to walk around with that on a sweatshirt. Almost done. I'm glad because I am very much so ready for lunch. Looking good. All right, these are our final pieces. I'm gonna go ahead and just merge them all down because 1, I'm feeling bold, and 2, I'm very familiar with how I constructed all these pieces. There's not gonna be any errors. Remesh by union. Stream is me wrapping up within the next 15 minutes or so. So if you guys had any residual questions, now is the time to ask them. If not, I'll be back Monday. I live stream Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. EST. Or is it EDT now because daylight savings? Whatever, just Eastern time. If you don't want to remember, if you subscribe, supposedly you'll get notified when I go live, so that works too. I say supposedly because I feel like half the people the features work, half of them they don't. All right, looking really good. And there's our cute little fellow. Let's do a double check to make sure his feet are on the same plane. If they're not, no big deal. We'll just do some small little adjustments with the move brush. Yep, and they look good. Excellent. Nice and flat. There we go. Aw, thank you, honey. That's very sweet. As a donation for $10, I really appreciate that. It says, Mia, congrats on your first week live stream Monday through Friday. You've done a great job keeping everyone entertained and educated. You provided 5 miles just this week. I think that's worth celebrating. Thank you, honey. That's so sweet. Oh, I can like it. I really appreciate that. And then Monkey asked a very important question, pizza or sushi? I would have to say pizza, even though I also do love sushi. K9's here really quickly. Hi. It's like, I got the stream before it ended today. Thank you. And then someone new just being sweet. Thank you. A lot of love at the end of the chat here. I really appreciate it. And again, thank you. The donation's really appreciated. Alrighty. Man, you know what's beautiful? This little frog band's beautiful. Absolutely love this. We're gonna throw this into my NZPR, get this all ready for being placed on a base, and I'll be sharing this file with y'all for free. If you're watching in the future, it is no longer free, but the file is available on Patreon. Gosh, he is so much fun. I have a library of custom bases that I can draw from. These custom bases I've just made over the years. I've been doing this full time since 2019, so I have quite a few built up. We're gonna do some flowers and grass, or let's see, maybe some clovers. Yeah, I think a couple flowers would be nice on this space. Perfect, just like he's walking through a little forest. All right, looking very nice. I'm gonna export both of these and double check the scaling and the mesh integrity in Mesh Mixer, which is funny. It's a very outdated software, but I still use it because it works, right? By the time I download it on my MacBook, it's not even available on Autodesk anymore. I like found some really old, very maybe not trustworthy download link for it, but it worked out. So here we go, we still got it. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. It's been a really lovely Friday stream. If you're one of my students and you're watching this in the future, if you have any questions on how anything was done during the stream, you can always timestamp it and send it to me. Always happy to answer your questions. No question is too basic. All right, this is a Frogfolk Ranger. I provide a base and a decorative, no base and decorative base version. All right, I'm uploading this to Google Drive right now so I can share it with y'all for free. Let me get that uploading right now, and the link will be in the chat very shortly. All right, that's uploading right now. K9 says, gonna have to bust out my resin printer for this frog guy and print nothing on it in a year. Well, I'm glad to be the reason why you're back to 3D printing. All right. Free download. Robert says, thank you, Mia, you're amazing. Oh, thank you. I'm really glad that you like it. It was such a lovely request. I really appreciate you. Your support on Patreon is literally what makes this possible. Obviously, I love that you guys are here in the stream. It's a huge part of it as well. The more you guys that hang out and watch, and anyone that subscribes, just likes the video, any of these interactions, the donation, all of it really helps get my channel out a little bit further, kind of like casting a wider net, so to speak. And so far, goodness, it just keeps bringing more and more lovely people. I felt very, very lucky. The streams have just been super pleasant. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and make a quick little splash page here for him. So going back to my poly painted version. Gosh, he's just so silly and precious. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this model. If you want more of these, you can support me on Patreon, or if you just want to support me, that's fine too. If you want to learn how to sculpt, I do provide a mentorship program through another Patreon as well. Both of those links are in the description, but at the very least, thank you guys for being here. I love that too. And then Monkey, of course, says, don't forget, Ricky promised me I would do a backflip on stream when she gets 20 likes, and we actually did get 20 likes. That was part of the joke. Again, my streams are small, I'm just starting out, so 20 was a ridiculous number. I didn't expect to actually hit it. I can't do a backflip. I can't even do a cartwheel, guys. You get a really enthusiastic thumbs up. That's what I got. Monkey, I hate that you brought that up. Good memory, though. Doing a quick little edit on the screenshot. Just kind of, I recommend this for all of my creators out there too. Just doing a nice little screenshot with the UI I find does better on the algorithm. Also, just it looks more interesting. I also like increasing the sharpness and the contrast just a touch. Just makes all of it a little more readable and pops a little better. By no means am I a social media expert, but this is how I like to present my work. So there you go. You're learning all the secrets. K9 says, 21 likes now, 2 backflips. Okay, let's be real. If this was gonna scale, to be fair, we'd have to get to 40. It's 1 backflip per 20 likes, okay? Take it or leave it. No, I'm just kidding. 0 backflip. I cannot do a backflip. You guys are silly. Monkey said, could just make the model do a backflip. No one said it had to be you. Oh yeah. I could spin a model. Bam, he just flips. Bam. It happened, guys. I guess we're doing 2 then. This is so silly. Bam, we did 2. It's harder than it should be, honestly, because like my pivot point on ZBrush is farther away from the model, so that took some skill. 1.1 backflip. That is more accurate. I like it. Gosh, it's just been such a lively stream. I'm a little overwhelmed and humbled. It's really cool. Again, like starting this off, I just didn't expect to get more than like 5, so this is great. And K9 agrees. That was a game ready animation backflip, right? I think so too. I do. You know, I actually I used to have a cleaner workflow that I would put my models into. I think it's Mixamo, where you can have animations. So maybe I should just have like a quick and dirty like Mixamo file loaded up so I can do that. That'd be fun. Yeah, by far this has been my most lively stream ever. Also, another donation, thank you. I just really appreciate it, I do. I love that I get to do this as a living, and sometimes when there's people actually watching me do my work live, there's something that makes it feel more real, as opposed to me just, you know, hanging out in my studio working by myself. So yeah, it's a really cool element. That's one thing I kind of miss, because as a musician, like I have played with other people, but as an artist, you don't really create art with other people. It's a much more like solitary endeavor. So live streaming it has been really, really fun for me and kind of brought like this social element into my work that I never anticipated. So it's really just been a delight. Rob said, you're only going to go up from here. That's very, very sweet. Thank you. Yeah, I'll be a big time streamer. You guys just watch. Honestly, I'm pretty satisfied where we're at. This is fantastic. If there's more people that find my work, that's great. If not, I really like this little core group right here. I really do. I would never want to get super famous. I like being medium, small medium. The medium part, because that's enough reach to have enough people making purchases and donations that actually funds this monetarily. The small part, because I recognize every one of you guys' usernames as of right now, or at least like 90%, I'm pretty accurate, where if someone new comes in, I recognize it and I notice it. And I like that, you know? It's fun for me. I don't want to be like one of those big streamers where the chat's just like flying by so fast, like no one can read it. If that ever happened, I would probably just do live streams that are unlisted in Discord. Not like on Discord, but that's where I'd give you guys a link. And then I would just find a place for us to hang out that's a little smaller. So yeah, we're way, way far away from that. As of now, we're not even medium. We're small, and this is great too. What a fun stream. What a cool model. Thank you so much for sharing this awesome idea. Pretty Kevin rocks. He's very pretty. All right, guys, I think that's a wrap. If you guys have any questions, I am signing off, so I won't see him right now, but I'll be back on Monday. So looks like on Monday, our next request coming up is a lizard folk businessman, followed up by a female elf fighter and a couple ghouls. So that's gonna be next week. If you're interested in that, subscribe or just remember my schedule. Either works. All right, guys, I hope you have a lovely beginning to the rest of your weekend. If you work weekends, that sucks. Get a treat. All right, guys, I'll see you Monday, okay? Take care. Bye.